All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, it's everybody. Looks like our item is closed session, so can we have a motion to go into closed session? Anybody have the paragraph in front of them?
If you don't, I'll state it. You need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 and 6 to discuss confidential personnel matters, and pursuant to General Statute 115C402 and 42 U.S. Code 1232G to discuss confidential student matters and to consult with legal counsel and get advice that is attorney-client privileged pursuant to 143-318.11A3.
Make a motion.
Someone want to make that motion?
I make a motion for the statutes codes that were just read.
Ken, you can just say so moved.
So moved.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's everybody. Thank you. We're in closed session. Alex, will you take we'll call the open session part of the meeting back to order. And Richard, would you tell us how to proceed here?
Sure. The matter before the board now in open session is consideration of the appointment of an independent contractor, and that independent contractor that the board chair, vice chair, and superintendent asked me to try to secure as quickly as possible an outstanding third-party investigator who would be able to come in and conduct an investigation with great integrity. And I feel very, very fortunate to have been able to get the Blue Law Firm in Raleigh to agree to do this. I've sent you their firm resume and individual resumes of the attorneys in that firm, which include Dan Blue Jr., Dan Blue III, and Damian Blue. The engagement letter that is before you is something that I'd like to go through with you. I hope you had a chance to take a look at their credentials. They are, I think, very impressive. So what I'd like to do is go through the engagement letter, unless somebody has any questions about the firm and its background and credentials. Okay, hearing none, I'll move on.
All right, go ahead.
I'll move on to the engagement letter. And we made some changes in the Blue firm's standard engagement letter, and all of the changes that were made were designed to comply with legal requirements. So the engagement is defined in the first paragraph, and this will confirm the Pender County Board of Education, which is the client, engagement of Blue LLP, which is referred to as Blue hereafter, to conduct an independent investigation of certain allegations posted on social media by a current staff member at Pender High School concerning comments regarding race allegedly made by client staff at Pender High School, and to determine whether they were made in all circumstances involving these and any other related racial comments, and to determine whether they were directed towards students or staff. That is the subject of the engagement. So that's what we're referring to when we refer to the engagement anywhere else in this letter. Blue will agree to investigate the matters that are the subject of the engagement under the terms that are set forth in this letter. And so obviously they've got ethical requirements to comply with, and they're setting forth in the second paragraph that they will comply with all the ethical requirements as attorneys for the board. They are designated specifically attorneys for the board in order for them to have access to what would otherwise be confidential personnel, which are confidential personnel, and student records that will be necessary to be reviewed in the course of the investigation. So in order for them to be able to have access to those records, they would either need to have you get the consent of everybody involved for every single record that's involved, or be designated as the board's attorney for the purposes of this engagement. So that's what's being done in the last paragraph on page 1, going over to the top of page 2. In the top of page 2, the first full paragraph there, Blue understands its direction from client is to proceed to conduct as quickly as possible a thorough, efficient, and complete investigation without compromising the integrity of the investigation for any reason. In my conversations with Damian and Dan Blue, I told them that the board wants a full, complete, honest, fair investigation, and that they have carte blanche to take it where it goes, based on the facts they uncover. They have to comply with all board policies, state and federal law, dealing with confidentiality, and I put in here that they will work with the board and its attorneys to recommend and determine information that can be revealed as a result of their investigation and to follow through on any legal required procedures, which are in General Statute 115C321, dealing with the release of confidential personnel information, and that the superintendent and the board will cooperate fully with this process. The third full paragraph on page 2 states that they will be asked to evaluate whether there have been potential violations of the standards of professional conduct that are set forth in the state administrative code, and it also establishes that they are aware of and will advise employees of their rights when interviewing any school employees to have their own attorney present. That's required by the administrative code. We've asked them to advise whether there have been violations of board policy, law, or professional standards, and evaluate whether steps taken by the administration to address the issues were sufficient, and to make any recommendations on any further actions to be considered to address the situation or improve the handling of matters that are subject to this engagement. The fee for all of this is they'll bill in tenth of an hour increments, and the fee for any of the attorneys who are working on this would be $350 per hour for attorneys and $75 per hour for paralegals, with an upfront retainer of $10,000 against which they will bill at those hourly rates. That's not $10,000 is the minimum, but they'll bill the hourly rates against those $10,000. I guarantee you they'll go beyond $10,000 total in the course of doing this investigation at the rate of $350 an hour. Travel time is billed at half that rate. So it's $10,000 up front, against which they'll bill the $350 an hour for attorneys, or $75 an hour for paralegals, for legal assistants, plus costs and expenses, and monthly payment required. I will tell you, this is a negotiated hourly rate that is less than their standard hourly rates of $500 an hour for Dan Blue and $400 an hour for Damien and Dan Blue III. So that is the proposal. And if you have any questions about it, now's the time.
Yep. Anyone got any questions?
No, it's very thorough.
If not, do we have a motion? Go ahead.
I have one. Is there a way to put a timeline on this investigation?
You could. I kind of tried to do that by saying it'll be done in as quickly as possible in a thorough, efficient, complete. I mean, rather than put a timeline of X on it, and then find out that we've got some witnesses who are trying to run out the clock, and they're not going to be available for another 10 days, or their attorney couldn't be, in a certain time. I didn't want there to be any suggestion that we were limiting them in a way that might compromise the integrity of the investigation.
I understand that.
And I had that conversation with them. They understand that you're looking for this to be investigated and resolved as quickly as possible. But keep in mind, when you do an investigation like this, when anybody does an investigation like this, you can't control the timeline completely.
All right. Any more questions?
Yeah, I can't hear what the conversation is in the background. If it's public comment, they should wait for the board meeting next Tuesday. If they want to ask questions, it's up to the board, what they want to allow or what format. I will advise that I can't hear what the conversation in the background. I can just hear some talk in the background.
Alex, do we have a way that they can be heard?
Hey, Alex. Alex.
Yeah.
Alex, this is Rich. If this is questions, that's up to the board. If it's public comment, it should wait for the board meeting. But it's up to the board.
Well, I mean, who would the questions be
My name is Rashawn McIntyre.
there's not much that...
Let me first introduce myself. I am Rashawn McIntyre. I am a concerned parent. My daughter do attend Pender High School. Now, the question that I have is, what you're saying tonight, we cannot speak. What are we here for? Just to hear the proposal of the investigation of what is going on? But can you give us a little bit more clarification on that, please?
This is Don. But the purpose of today's meeting was to hire the law firm, to try to get to the bottom of this. What kind of question, or what were you wanting to know, I guess, specifically?
Okay.
We'll see if we can help you.
When you say you're a Don, what capacity, do you hold? What is your position so that I can address you accordingly?
I'm the board chair.
Okay. My question
I'm the board chair.
Okay. My question is, again, I am a concerned parent for my student at Pender High School, not just for my child, but for Pender High, altogether. With the allegations that has been...
Mr. Chairman, before we continue, does there need to be a motion to amend, if we're going to be doing public comments, and if it's not advertised, do we need to make sure that it's been amended to the agenda?
Yeah, you're probably...
Or, that's just a question I have, Mr. Chairman. Especially if this meeting is just to present the hiring of the Blue Law Firm.
Yeah, this is Rich. In the notice of special meeting, we're required to set forth what the subject of the meeting was, and public comment was not included in the subject of the meeting. We'd have to give 48 hours notice of that. So you should not amend the agenda to add public comment. If somebody had a specific question related to an item on the agenda, which is approval of this contract, that's a different story.
Okay, again, so can I get a clarification on whether we are allowed to ask questions pertaining the anonymized proposal that you all just presented, pertaining the situation or the allegations of a Pender High School staff?
Right. Well, I'm guessing you can ask about the law firm.
Excuse me, I'm not.
The board wants to ask.
I'm asking again, okay, for a clarification, whether we as public people, citizens that is here in this meeting tonight, are we allowed to ask any questions or address concerns pertaining the proposal or the allegations that took place at Pender High School with one of your staff members?
Well, I think we're going to need to have public comment for that. And Richard, is there any way that we can amend it? So by law, we can't do public comment? Is that what you're saying?
You'd have to have given notice in the notice of special meeting in order to allow the public comment. If there's a specific question dealing with this agreement with this law firm, then I think you could squeeze that within what's allowed given the notice of the meeting. But you did not provide for public comment.
So again, my question have not been answered. You're saying Mr. Richard, you said you think. We need to know for sure. Is it a yes or is it a no?
Well, that depends on what your question is. So if your question is dealing with the law firm or the contract that is proposed with the law firm, the board would be within its authority to allow or not allow questions on it, given the notice of special meeting. If you're talking about asking questions about the situation that is going to be investigated, or anything that's not related to the contract or the law firm, then no, it would not be allowed. Does that help?
Yes, it does. So according to the law firm,
Okay.
we can only ask questions pertaining to the law firm that you presented on tonight.
Yeah.
Or the
That's how
contract.
I see it, but now, on Tuesday, when we have a regular meeting, it will have public comment, so
Okay.
you can ask away at it, we probably should have had public comment in this notice.
And I will just tell
Anyway.
you that there may be questions, but there should not be answers given with an investigation pending. It's going to be up to the investigation to determine what went on and how it was handled.
So next Tuesday at what time? At 6 p.m. Then the public will have the right to attend the meeting and ask any questions, whether it's pertaining to the contract or whether it's pertaining to allegations.
Right. Well, the purpose of that meeting.
Go ahead. Sorry, Rich, go ahead.
The purpose of that is for the board to hear public comment, not to get questions and try to answer them on the spot. So you can make public comment. It's not a Q&A session, though.
Okay, so really you're just gathering the concerns and the questions of the public, and then you'll go back and analyze it and be able to give us an answer.
That's one way of looking at it, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna pass the mic to Dr. Tate. Thank you.
Right.
Good evening. Thank you, Ebony. Members of the board and superintendent, thank you all for responding to me earlier this week when I asked you questions. I'll make my question brief so Mr. Murphy can come. I'm en route to another meeting. My question in regards to the contract tonight that was presented by for the Blue Law Firm, are those dollars that pay, I'm just concerned, are the dollars that pays for this investigation, are those coming out of county funds that have been allocated to you? Is that normally where those dollars come from? And if so, is there an estimated amount that you're going to try to cap that out at or not to exceed? Or will we be kept informed of the charges throughout this process? Thank you so much, members.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that.
Will we be kept informed without doing public records requests of the amount that was spent on this investigation?
Okay, well, we won't know until we get the bill, but there is not a cap on it in the agreement because I didn't want there to be a suggestion that the board was putting limits on the investigation that might compromise the integrity of the investigation. I've had conversations with the members of the firm who, in dealing with this proposal, they do understand they're dealing with a public entity. That was why I got them to reduce their hourly rates. And they understand they're dealing with public funds, and they understand that the board wants them to move as quickly as possible, but they also understand that the board is not trying to limit them in a way that will compromise the integrity of the investigation. So the source of the funds will have to be county dollars, the amount that's expended will be public record.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Is there a reason that this investigation was not done at the county level initially, before you all went to an outside firm?
Well, apparently.
Let me answer that one. I wanted a third party because that way no one can say that anyone has any prior knowledge or any of that kind of thing about it. That's the purpose of the third party firm. Does that help?
I'm certainly in receipt of your question, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all.
Sure.
Your response.
Yes, this is Reverend.
All right, is there anybody else?
Yes, Reverend Dante Murphy.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to all of you all. A few things. One thing I want to ask is the purpose of this meeting tonight to actually hire the law firm? And if it is, can that vote be delayed until the regular meeting?
Yes, and we don't want to delay it because we're ready to get started.
So let me tell you what my concern is.
Pretty important that, okay.
Let me express to you what my concern is. As you all know, I've been dead in the middle
sir. Go ahead.
of everything that's happened in New Hanover County. And the attorneys that you are getting ready to hire is the board's attorney. I think you've already stated that. I don't know any other way to put it, but I've been closely associated with some of the attorneys that they have hired. And because they are the board's attorney, I'm not sure everything, well, first of all, I'm not even sure they was vetted properly. Right now, you're getting ready to take a vote, and the public is going to be left to trust that you have vetted a firm that in fact will be independent. I will say this. The word independent investigation scares me from what I have learned from New Hanover County, because in all actuality, there is really no such thing. Because once you hire them, they become the board's attorney. This is why I'm wanting you to delay this vote, because I believe the public have to be assured that this is indeed an independent investigation. Thank you.
All right, Reverend Murphy,
May I speak?
Because of the personnel issues involved, and Richard will explain that. Thanks, Richard. Go ahead.
There are, in the canons of ethics and the code of professional responsibility that attorneys have to comply with, once you are hired by anybody, there's an attorney-client relationship that is created. And you have to comply with the ethical requirements that go along with that. So it doesn't matter who we hire. If the board is doing the hiring, then under the code of ethics and the standards of professional responsibility that apply to any licensed attorney, they're going to be subject to those requirements. The second thing is that if we don't designate them as the board attorney and the board's agent, they're not going to have access to the materials that they need, confidential personnel and student records, in order to conduct this investigation. The last thing we want to do is hire somebody, not designate them as the board's attorney or agent, and then not grant them access to the documents they need to conduct the investigation. And then the results of the investigation are going to be, we were denied access to necessary documents and we couldn't reach a conclusion. So we have to deal with legal requirements and ethical requirements that are in a number of different statutes and regulations and policies. And this engagement letter tries to spell that out as completely as possible, and also makes clear that we are expecting them to conduct an independent investigation. I would challenge anybody to check out the background and integrity of this law firm and come up with any concerns that are legitimate. This is an outstanding group that's being brought in to do a difficult job under difficult circumstances. They understand the engagement, and they understand that the board is telling them we want you to leave no stone unturned and move forward.
And sir,
with that, I think the board is ready for a motion.
well, sir, my question hasn't been answered. And I'm not sure if that was the chairman of the board talking or the attorney. Which one was it?
That was the attorney explaining.
That was the attorney.
The conversation I've had with.
So you have the attorney telling the board that they are ready for a vote? Am I clear on that?
I didn't hear what you said.
Am I clear that you have the attorney telling the board that they are ready for a vote?
That was my suggestion, yes.
Okay, could I talk to the board for a moment and get my question answered? Is it possible to delay this vote until Tuesday for the reason that I've forestated? That's a board question.
Okay, and I will try to answer that, and then let the board answer it as well.
Brother attorney,
The concerns that you expressed aren't going to be changed or resolved or dealt with any differently between now and Tuesday.
sir, you're trying to convince me of something, and I'm asking a question to the board.
Excuse me, I don't believe I interrupted you.
Yeah, but I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste mine. I'm asking the board, can they delay this vote until Tuesday? Yes or no? You're trying to convince me to agree with you. That's not what I'm asking right now. Because the firm that you have picked may be the best people in the world. I don't know. But for the reason I forestated, I'm asking the board, can you delay the vote until Tuesday? And I'm leaving because and not out of rudeness, but that's just a simple question that I'll find out after the meeting whether you answered yes or no. So thank you very much for your time.
Reverend Murphy,
Right.
this is Beth Burns.
Thank you.
If you stay for just a second,
Yes.
thank you. I think everybody on this board is pretty much in agreement that what has happened lately has put a lot of turmoil into our community. It is our desire to get an investigation going on this and to make it happen immediately. I hear your concerns, but sir, it's my personal opinion that we need to start this investigation as quickly as possible.
So the question I'm asking, just for clarity, is a yes or no question. So, the board has the pleasure to act in whatever matter. I'm just asking the question.
It will depend, well, it's on the agenda to be voted on today, so it's gonna depend on if there's a motion and a second.
All right. So, I'm only recommending
We're gonna do
that.
We'll find out in just a moment here.
So it's just my recommendation that you delay the vote, and
Okay.
I wish you all well in making that decision. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
This question is for
All right. Are there any more comments?
yes, I have a question.
Go
The
ahead,
meet-
ma'am. I'm sorry.
The meeting will be held on next Tuesday. Will it be at this location or in Topsail?
It'll be held at Topsail High School.
I think we have gotten Topsail.
Okay. And one other question,
Alex, will you answer? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's Topsail. We had the previous month's board meeting at Pender High School because we thought we would have some folks there. So in fairness, to go to the other side of the county, we pre-planned to have it at Topsail for this month.
thank you. And my final question is, out of all equity and respect for those parties that is involved in this allegation, has the board or anyone reached out to the parents of these students, or no one haven't? Out of respect, out of both parties.
That's not a, it's not a Q&A session right now.
And when will it be? Will it be next
I don't know if
Tuesday?
it will be.
I'm sorry, what was the response?
The next Tuesday, the members of the public can make public comments, which are not intended to be a question and answer session. They're other ways to address that, but there may not be ways to give answers to all questions.
No further questions, board.
Well, and with an ongoing investigation, I don't know how many questions can really be answered with an ongoing. Is that?
With an ongoing investigation, there should not be a limit to what questions asked. Neither there should be a limitation on how many questions asked. That is the concern and the right of the public. That's the purpose of having the meeting, a public meeting. So with that being said, whomever have whatever questions, it's left up to you all to answer to the best of your ability. Again, without any limitations.
To be clear, the board is initiating this investigation, and the law firm is ready to get moving on it quickly. I don't know. I didn't talk to them about delaying for a week on this. I don't know if the engagement would be the same. It was delayed for a week, so it's up to the board what to do now.
And that's fine, but again, there's no limitation and no investigation. The investigation goes on until all facts have been proven and you have, seek all the information that you need. Again, not just for the board, but for both parties. There's a lot of people that is involved in these allegations, and they deserve that right as well. Thank you.
All right. Let me ask one final question before we vote. So, Richard, you can answer this, I think. If someone from the public, whether it be a parent or just whoever, has got information that is relevant to the investigation, us as a board, the object of getting a third party was for us to stay out of it, including staff. How would any concerns or information, whatever, how would that be brought to the attention of an investigator? And I know it probably depends on the circumstances, but
yeah, and I don't know, what procedure the board want to follow, so I'll leave that up to them to set up.
So that would be up to the investigator.
I'm not going to tell them how to do their
right. Okay, so basically it's up to the investigator, correct?
Well,
on how they would proceed.
They'll have to decide what they want to do to set anything up. If board members get anything, from the public, then you can certainly pass that on to the investigators.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. All right, any more comments before we move on here?
Yes, I would like a clarification on what was just spoken. If I'm correct, you're saying that the information that may come from the public, it can or cannot be used? If I understood that correctly?
Well, that will be up to the investigator. Is that right, Richard?
The investigators will determine the relevance of the information.
So in any given time that there's an investigation, how is it that you can withhold certain information pertaining to the situation or the case?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that question.
I said during a investigation, how is it that some information can be used, in the midst of that investigation, you limited? Just use it for an example. If I have if I say that I have some information pertaining to the situation, okay, you're telling me that you will not be able to use that information that I may submit to the attorney pertaining this investigation?
I'm not saying anything of the sort, and I haven't said anything of the sort.
So that's what I'm asking. I'm asking for a clarification on what you verbally spoke approximately a few seconds ago.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is any information that the investigators get in connection with this engagement, it will be up to them to determine the relevance of the information, and it'll be up to them to determine how it's investigated.
Wow. I thought an investigation really was pertaining all the allegations and whatever you can present to.
If
I'm
you,
not sure what the,
if you have concerns, then forward it to us, and all we can do is forward it to the investigator. The purpose of a third party is to keep us and any other school-involved people out of it, to make sure that it's fair. So that's the only way I know to put it. Does that, you understand what I mean?
Well, if that be the case, I mean, it's a staff that has the actual documents that can be presented, you know, in this allegation. So, no, I really don't have a clarification on what you're saying.
I mean, okay, okay. All right, well, I don't know any other way to put it. I mean, the reason for hiring a third party is so that anyone involved with the school system, or anyone related, can stay out of it so that there can be a fair investigation.
But from what you're saying, that still won't be a fair investigation. That's a partial investigation. Out of all honesty.
That was the purpose of hiring a third party, so.
Okay, so the public should have.
All right, thank you very much.
Excuse me?
If you.
Who am I speaking
Thank you
with?
very much.
Who am I speaking with?
I am Don Hall, the board chair.
Mr. Hall, the chairman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll be talking with you later.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you. All right, do we have a motion to approve the contract or not? Let's move on. All right, I've called for a motion. Do we have a motion to approve the contract?
I make a motion that we approve the contract with Blue LS.
All right, we have a motion to approve the contract. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, motion carries. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay. All right, thank you very much.
thank you.
You are the last